Good morning, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a great Tuesday, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, let's get into the news this Tuesday morning. And looks like it's more bad news for Democrats as we ramp up toward the elections. We're 1 month out of the elections taking place in November, and things are not looking good in polling. They had a little surge as the summer was ending. However, now Republicans are surging at the right time before the elections. This is a good thing for Republicans in the country. If you ask my opinion, which that's why you're here. And the bad thing for Democrats, for them at least. And now I would love to see them out of power for at least the next decade or even more, because of their insane policies. They continue to try to push on this nation, and they've gone even further with so many of their policy proposals, and what they support is not what aligns with the American people. So something big is coming in November. I wouldn't rule out an October surprise somewhere in the middle of October. We will see some Democrats will try to pull again. I'm still thinking about how they're going to even, if it's a fake arrest or whatever, they go in there and try to get Trump so they can have him on television in handcuffs to maybe satisfy their base, but that's not going to be enough for them. It's going to be an absolute show lacking when it comes on November 8th. So let's get to take a look what we have here. It says GOP takes congressional lead in new poll as support for Biden, and Democrats on key issues. Craters. That's right, because we still have inflation. We're in a recession, gas prices are still at all-time high. Under this regime, this is what we continue to see: a new ma amon mouth. My Mouth University poll shows Republicans in the driver's seat with just over a month to go for the midterm elections. The poll shows a dramatic shift as Democrats lose their lead, and the generic control of Congress question plunging from 50% support in August to 44% in September, while Republicans took a lead with 47% support, up from 44% in August. Republicans are dominating Democrats among independent voters on key issue of inflation, crime and immigration. Joe Biden's extreme left agenda, supported by Democrat-controlled House and Senate, is hurting Democrats across the board. Biden doesn't crack majority approval on any key issue, with the closest thing been to pandemic and 50% approval. The right track wrong track opinion has inched back from extinction level 1088% in June to 2374 in September, most likely due to Biden empty this strategic petroleum reserve to lower gas prices to help Democrats. And just on a note on that, it looks like OPEC will be raising or slowing down production of oil. And that's going to impact us this month. So look to see gas prices to have another spike increase. It says Biden can't empty out the reserves anymore. Maybe he'll empty the entire reserve just so that way you can save a few seats in the House. Who knows? Biden's disapproval, however, stands at a dismal 3,854, a slightly improvement without distinction. From August to 3,856, Biden's student loan forgiveness gambit has only 41% approval. Whatever boom let Biden and Democrats experience in the summer. It's clearly over as the midterms approach. Of course, inflation, crime and elections and voting are very important. Jobs and unemployment, immigration, infrastructure. All important. These are the most important issues going on right now. These four here: inflation, crime, elections, jobs, immigration. By far, Democrats are looking their lot. They've lost ground in Pennsylvania. They're losing ground in Wisconsin. Heck, they're even losing ground in Nevada and Oregon. Things are moving in the wrong direction for them, and right now in the right direction for Republicans in those key areas. But across the map as well. You can see possibly the Republicans maybe gaining 30 seats. This election, that would be fantastic to see that dramatic shift, and then maybe recapturing the Senate as well would be fantastic. So we'll see how things play out, but I know Jill and Joe, of course Dante and Chuck, are extremely nervous about what's coming, because once Republicans gain control, hopefully some of these investigations will be flipped onto the Democrat Party, as it should be, and impeachment hearings commence to start uncovering what the White House had been hiding this entire time. And then, the concept of public service, a noble concept of dedicating oneself to the people, not to the pursuit of personal benefit, wealth, luxury or greed, but to others, to society, to the people. Noble concept indeed, but are we naive to believe that that's what's really going on here? At least in terms of the majority, no one's going to discredit the fact that many people do take public service seriously as a call to action to truly serve people. But it seems as though the majority pretend to dedicate their lives to you, to everyone else, to the people, but really, in the end, it's nothing but me career advancement and expanding personal wealth. And today the infamous Dr. Fauci is back in the headlines, back in the news. Selfless public servant is what the Democrats would have you believe, a man who is to be revered as being the leader that everyone needed throughout the dark times of the last 2 years, again, is what the Democrats tell you, but a man who, while supposedly serving the people, somehow ballooned his personal net worth by double. Dr. Fauci in the last 2 years has supposedly added $5 million to his net worth, and for my understanding, that seems to be after taxes. Something is not adding up here, folks, because with these public officials, we know exactly how much money they're supposed to make. Dr. Fauci is, in fact, the highest paid man or person in government, but a $5 million net worth increase in the last 2 years. Something's fishy, folks. Alright, folks, take a look at this from the conservative brief. Fauci added $5 million in wealth during pandemic. Net worth skyrockets to $12.6 million. Dr. Tony Fauci is by far the highest paid federal official, and he has grown incredibly wealthy on a taxpayer-funded salary during his 50-plus years in government, according to Open the Books, an organization that focuses on government spending transparency. Fauci, head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases since Ronald Reagan's first term in the 1980s, grew his personal wealth by some $5 million during the recent pandemic to top out around $12.6 million. Last night, our auditors at OpenTheBooks.com received Dr. Anthony Fauci fiscal year 2021 financial disclosures from his government position. Adam, excuse me, but I have absolutely no idea how to pronounce this last name. Let's try it, but I'll butcher it and reduce ski. Hopefully I got it right. Founder of the organization wrote on his Substack, the documents contain a wealth of previously unknown information. For example, the Fauci's household net worth now exceeds $12.6 million, up to $5 million from 2019 through 2021. He added Dr. Fauci has made $5 million in the last 2 years. So I'm assuming that's after taxes, although it's hard to tell. A lot of it might be subject to capital gains tax if it's held in investments. But either way, how is this possible? If Dr. Fauci was earning roughly $456,000 a year during that time? Well, that's in 2021. I'm not exactly sure in 2019, or in 2020, what his salary was, whether you got a promotion or an increase in salary as the pandemic hits, and he was put in a position of power. There is that salary after taxes, and after expenses will take a decent chunk out of the $450,000 that he's earning. But that isn't anywhere close to making over $2 million a year in his government position. I mean, for Pete's sakes, is this guy the greatest investor of all time? I know real estate prices were up. I know stocks boomed, but this guy's portfolio basically doubled. It's almost like he made something like an 80% return. How is that possible? What does this guy own? What is this guy doing? How is he making all of this money? But the better question is, how are all of these privileged government officials and government people making all of this money behind closed doors? And I say the word privileged, not in the left void white privilege and check your privileged style, but in the sense that government officials are privileged to have access to privileged information. They know what's going on at a much deeper level than we do, and they know before we know. And the question is, does the privileged position in privileged information have an impact? Or is it connected to the absolute explosion of wealth that we see with all of these government characters? And the overall lack of transparency is probably the most frustrating thing. You know, people ask themselves, how is Maxine Waters worth what she's worth? We know her level of competence. Maxine Waters, again, has made some really good money throughout the years through her government position, but to a certain extent, it's humble. She shouldn't be extremely wealthy when you're making $170,000 or just got salary for inflation moving backwards in time. How does your net worth all of a sudden reach tens upon tens of millions of dollars? If I'm not mistaken, Maxine Waters, his net worth is within that range. But I'm not going to say for sure, because we don't know the exact number. I mean, for Pete's sakes, we covered it not too long ago. She owns a $6 million home in California. You know how expensive it is to maintain a $6 million home? How is it that Maxine Waters can do something like that? How is it that Nancy Pelosi is in the position that she's in? And why is it that so many of these people like Nancy Pelosi and Dianne Feinstein, for instance, are married to investors and hedge fund people with incredible track records of success? When it comes to making trades, the American people deserve transparency? How did Dr. Fauci make every single dollar? What happened? Same thing with Nancy Pelosi and the rest of these figures. And let's go back on Maxine Waters, for instance. How is it that Maxine Waters can justify funneling hundreds of thousands of dollars to her daughter using official campaign funds? There is something that stinks, and the American people deserve transparency. And of course, I'm focusing on Democrats, but it's not just Democrats. I've seen a lot of people mention people like Dan Crenshaw, for instance, whose stock portfolio has also skyrocketed since he joined Congress. There needs to be transparency on how these government officials are making money, who's paying them, who's feeding them information, what stocks are they buying, what are they doing? Because it's not just about the money that they're making, it's about the possible influence. The question is, within the world of politics, who is paying these people? Where are they making their money? It's not an issue of privacy anymore. When you're supposedly a public servant, it's an issue of potential corruption. And the American people's questions should be answered. There shouldn't be any confusion. There should be absolute transparency, especially over everything that's transpired over the last 2 years related to Dr. Anthony Fauci. And Lord, I just hope that if Republicans regain the House, they have the spine to look into these matters, because it's completely despicable that the guy who was in charge of taking away so much from so many by recommending policies that absolutely obliterated the middle class, what a slap in the face it must be, to have everything taken away from you, to be suffering financially, to be getting absolutely crushed, and the guy who's the face of it all ballooned his net worth by over $5 million, almost doubling it during the time that you lost everything. It's despicable, and the people deserve answers. All these government officials, and all these media folk who look down on you, all these people who told you to shut up and stop complaining and quote, do your part for the last 2 years. Well, it was very easy for them to say that, because trust me when I say this, people working in media made a metric F ton throughout the last 2 years. I know this because I have a direct view into ad rates. They were making millions while people were suffering, and telling you to shut up, sit down, and take it in response to you losing everything. The Republican Party needs to rise to the occasion on this one. Honestly, I'm not so sure they will, because they're obviously part of this whole cabal, at least a good chunk of them. But I guess all I'm really saying here is that the American people deserve answers, and I hope they get it. Alright, thanks for being here, folks. Please receive a big hug from all of us. Let me know down below if you like these updates. Thank you very much. WWG